Hey, Joseph. Lighting. How's my lighting? Not too good. Hang on one second. You know what? This is making me a silhouette.
Some silhouettes look good, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Is that better? Is that satisfactory? I do have a couple LED lights here. Hang on one second. Hopefully this is not too crazy. A little too blinding right there. Let me stand back a little further. I do have a stand. Hang on one second. I apologize. I guess you don't know what you're going to get until you actually see the camera, you know? But I do have all the equipment under the sun for shoots and stuff.
Well, that's handy.
Yeah, I'm pretty well equipped.
So how you been?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
You know, life's been ups and downs, my friend.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. Especially when you're in a real estate market.
Oh, yeah.
You have stuff like we have going on now with the market. You're in Tampa, right?
I am, yeah.
You know, I was in Tampa just the other day. Kate and Chris.
Oh, the Kremitzos. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. I've known Chris now for probably like 12, 13 years. He's just such a giving guy.
Big heart, right?
Yeah, he does so much to help people get started in every aspect that it's
So you were just out visiting with them or business or?
He did a gig about how to get started creating online courses. And
oh yeah.
Yeah, $97 for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And man, they gave so much good content.
Was it virtual or in person?
It was in person. They did it, you know, the famous West Shore.
Right?
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, let me see. These are a little bright. I know they're blinding me, but there is a dimmer. How does that look? Does that look better?
It does.
It does. Okay. Of course, I want to be in front of the mic, though.
All that effort paid off, bro. It's giving you a nice, you know, suntan highlight look.
Nice glow, huh?
A nice glow.
Like this one I could turn up. Dude, I'm telling you, every time I do a Bible study and the word Thomas pops up, I think of you.
Why do you think of me?
Because of that conversation we had when we were in Austin. And
remind me.
You said, well, I go by Joseph, not Joe. And why are you going by Tom? You should be going by Thomas.
Oh, that's right. We had the Doubting Thomas talk.
Yeah. And went and researched it. Thomas is Didymus, the twin. But outside of that, I've been like really a research geek on it. And there's really not a lot of information. There's not. It's Thomas is just not a forefront guy. in the New Testament. You know, there's very little said about him. So there's literally just some sentences to go on, and that's it.
There's a lot of depth in the sentences, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So what did God show you about you in that studying?
Yeah, the doubting thing, he's like, you know, I guess I'm doubting because I go too much on my own power sometimes. And that's why, you know, and we're not supposed to do it ourselves. We're supposed to rely on him.
Welcome to humanity.
Yes, yes. That's always the big assignment of the human race, to try not to do it yourself.
Yep. And if you're stubborn like me, God will actually step in and remove all the distractions if you give him permission to, which I accidentally did a while ago.
Yeah.
And I said, Lord, remove anything in my life that's distracting me from stepping into my calling and growing closer to you, and use force if necessary. Well, Thomas, looking back, I shouldn't have added that part, because God has been using force because it was necessary, and it sucks. It just straight out sucks. He's been stripping away one of my businesses without, involuntarily. And the more I stepped in to salvage it, fix it, save it, rebuild it, the quicker he knocked it down, to the point where I got my hand smacked so many times, I just let go and said, fine, I trust you. Obviously, it's either going to crash and burn or you're going to provide a miracle. So I'll know in the next 2 months which of those two is going to happen. But it's a shitty place to be, man.
Yeah, I hear you.
Just being real. Just
things. Yeah, I hear you. And things that require growth aren't always the easiest things, you know, to be able to take. I mean,
it's going to the gym, right? It's doing the workout. It's ripping the muscle and then feeling sore for days after. It sucks.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, this show is about you, my friend. So today you wanted to speak about following God's highest calling for your life. So that's what we're going to talk about, right? Now, this is a business show, obviously. First 100K. So my audience are entrepreneurs who are struggling. I believe 90% of entrepreneurs are struggling to make their first $100,000, but they're pretending they're not. They're pretending like they're doing much better than they are. And they're posting the highlights of their life on social media, and then they're going home emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and financially broke.
Yeah.
Right? And they're not doing the work, the hard work to go on the inside and fix all that and let God in, right? So that's what we could talk about today. But the way you can add the most value to my audience, Thomas, is to be real, to be transparent, and to be vulnerable. And as men, I know that's difficult to do. However, that's where my audience is going to connect most with you, is when they get that, wow, this guy Thomas is super successful, but he doesn't have it all figured out. He struggles with the same struggles I have. Well, if he can do it, I can do it. And that's where you make the connection, the human connection. Are you clear on that?
Sure.
Awesome, man. All right, cool. Any questions or comments for me before we get started?
Yeah. How long do you typically go?
We're going to put 30 minutes on the clock.
Okay. That's going to go fast.
That's going to be our goal. And I am excellent at what I do, so I will pull out the answers from you with my provocative questions.
Sure. And you'll lead the discussion, of course.
Correct. Okay. It's just
two
bros having a conversation, right? And we're going to talk about business, but do not be shy to bring God into it if that's what you're inspired to do, okay?
Sure.
Awesome. And small housekeeping, Thomas, to clarify, you grant me, Joseph Warren, unlimited worldwide distribution rights to this recording, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, sir. All right. So I'll give you just kind of a summary of what to expect. So I'm going to start right. The intro and the outro have been pre-recorded. So I start with today our featured guest is. I'll read your quick bio, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, fill in some of the gaps in the intro. And then I'm going to ask you something personal about your life that very few people in your business know, right? So kind of start thinking about that.
Okay.
And then we'll get right into your business. And then I'm going to ask you, I'm going to share with the audience why I invited you on the show. And then I'm going to ask you, what are your top 3 tips or strategies to make your first 100K? Like, what specifically did you do? right? And
Okay.
then you'll have that moment. So start thinking about that. Like, what are
Sure.
those main top 3 things I need to convey to this audience right now so that they can
Okay.
break through the 100K? Then
Okay.
I'm going to ask for that big number one hairy mistake, right?
Yeah.
We all have that one thing we're like, oh, snap, why did I do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And then we'll go into the hustle round, which is my favorite part. And it's just quick fire questions. We'll have some fun with it. And
Hmm.
then we'll wrap it all up in a ball. And you could share anything that you're working on. You could share we'll have the website and everything like that where people can find you, connect with you. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
You got the big idea?
I got the big idea. Yep.
All right, my friend.
It's a lot to big idea, but I got it.
Don't worry.
So we'll do the
got it
best.
all. I just
Yeah.
want to give you kind of like the
You're a
highlights.
good host, so I know you'll smooth it over.
A lot of my guests like to know
Yeah.
what's coming.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, cool. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Today, our featured guest is Tom Nardone. I like to call him Thomas. I like him by his first name. And now he's calling himself Thomas. And we'll talk about that maybe for a minute. But Tom started working for the U.S. Postal Service as a mailman back in the 80s. It didn't take him long to realize that the security entrapment of having, quote, a good job is not a lot different from a 30-year jail sentence. You feel trapped. Your income is limited. So Tom started buying up houses on his mail routes. And after 25 years of buying and holding and buying and selling, Tom has bought over 250 properties. How cool is this? This is such a great story. Tom co-authored the book Secrets of the Real Estate Millionaires and has created and written courses for several real estate information products. Tom has been twice featured on television with 2 appearances on Good Morning America with Charles Gibson and Joan London, and also CNBC's Power Lunch with Bill Griffith, as well as radio appearances on the Cash Flow Show and real estate related podcasts. Tom, it is awesome to have you on the show. Welcome to First 100K. Go ahead and fill in some of the gaps in that intro, would you?
Thanks for having me on the show, Joseph. When I first met you in Austin a couple months back, as you mentioned, Thomas is my actual birth name. And, we're both Christian guys here. So you asked me, I remember, first off, well, wait a minute, why are you calling yourself Tom? You should be calling yourself Thomas. There's power in that name. You just got to find it in the Bible. So that night, I remember running up to my hotel room and just tearing it open. All right, let's see what Thomas did. And it's every time I open the word now and come across Thomas, I think of Joseph. So not the Joseph, but you, Joseph.
That's
so,
an awesome story. Every now and then, like years ago, someone kind of poked at me and like, why you call yourself Joe? Like there's too many Joes in the world. You're Joseph. And then I went and I looked in the Bible. What does Joseph actually mean? Well, in ancient Hebrew, it means God adds, God multiplies. And I'm like, well, shoot, I want that in my life. I want God to add and multiply my life and expand my reach and impact in this world.
Sure.
You know what? If that's my birthright, I better start stepping into my name.
That's powerful.
It is powerful, right? So, Startup Nation, you can find Thomas. I'm training myself. You can find Thomas at millionairemailman.com. That's millionairemailman.com. So, Thomas, let's get down to business. But before we get down to business, go ahead and share something personal about you that very few people in your business life actually know.
Personal about me, I live here in sunny South Florida where there's 90-degree heat most of the year round, it seems. I live very close to the Everglades. And my thing is on the weekends to blow off steam, I have an airboat. So I go out in the swamp and I got a 10-foot gator hanging on my wall over there that we wound up getting about a year or two ago. And so that's what I like to do. I like to go airboating in the Everglades and go out in the swamp and play around. It's a lot of fun.
I did not know that about you. So you're just a good old Southern boy, aren't you?
Yeah, from New Jersey.
I love it. All right, so let's get down to business. My audience loves context. How much gross revenue approximately did your business do in the past 12 months?
Gross revenue in our business, really just about $200,000.
Awesome.
And that's,
200,000.
yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Cool. And how long did it take you specifically to get to break through the 100K mark, Thomas?
The 100K mark in the nature of my business, well, you mean within the year, or you mean in the evolution of my business?
In the evolution of your business, right? So, like, how long did it take? Was it a few months from when you started the business? Was it a few years? How long to hit the 100K?
I would say it was my second year.
Your
And
second year. Got it.
yeah, and that's basically due to the nature of what we do. We're real estate investors. So,
Mhm.
one transaction for us has a high gross potential to it.
Got it. So Startup Nation, I love like sharing these things, right? We always want to believe the media, the stuff we see on social media, the get rich quick, the overnight success stories, and those overnight success stories, when you dig down deep, they look like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of overnights hustling, working in order to get that overnight success. So 2 years for Thomas, that's awesome. Now, here's why I invited Thomas onto the show, because Thomas stands out from all the other entrepreneurs that I get to speak with on a regular basis. And what I mean by that is that Thomas, he shared early on that he's Christian, right? He's a believer, he's a follower of Christ, and he brings his faith into his business. And I really like to talk about that because I believe it's not an area we can leave out. If you have a faith, whatever your faith is, whatever your denomination, that's fine wherever you are, right? This isn't a show to debate you or like make you wrong, or one's right and the other's wrong, or anything like that. But it's to really inspire you to stop leaving God and your spiritual life out of your business, so that you can stop showing up in your life inauthentically, right? Stop doing it. You're living this duality in your life. You got your personal life and then you got your business life, right? And maybe on Sunday you nod your head at church with the pastor. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. I believe that. And then on Monday you have spiritual amnesia, I call it. And you go back into your business and it's cutthroat and you mistreat people and you try to get to the top and survival of the fittest and all that. And you can't leave God out of your business. So I brought Thomas onto the show because he's going to speak today about following God's highest calling for your life and how that really integrates into your business. So Thomas, coming back to business, how did you make your first 100K? Like specifically, what are the top 3 tips or strategies that you could share with Startup Nation right now that you use to make your first $100,000?
Sure. Well, I actually started with using my job as an asset. That was probably the biggest thing I had getting started, because I was a mailman. And I was a mailman here in Coral Springs, Florida, where I worked from age 19, age 35. And what I would see out on my mail routes was that, there were lots of houses back in the 80s when I was getting started that were going into foreclosure. And I saw there was this opportunity around me. And it was just kind of natural for me to get started in real estate because my dad was in real estate. And I know myself as a letter carrier, it's a good government job that pays the bills. But as far as being my highest calling, I knew that God just really had a bigger plan for me. So he helped me merge the two things together. It was like I'd see rundown vacant houses on my route. So, hey, I'm the postman. I kind of know where the people move to. I could see it in the postal records. So I track those people down and buy their homes. So when I say how I got to my first 100K, it was really more of an equity building process, because I started buying and holding houses. And I woke up after 10 years, I realized I had 36 houses I was renting out. And I was more actual equity rich, which was okay. But I was still fighting to get ahead in a cash flow sense, because we all know cash flow is the gasoline that keeps your business going. So
yeah, let me ask you that. With 36 properties producing rental income, how are you not like winning with your cash flow?
Well, you would have people that would up and leave. and a tenant leaves, and we call that a punch out. You got to go in, change the carpeting, repaint the walls, and do all the things a landlord would do. So I sort of got started backwards in a sense, because I started buying and holding, which is not what people usually do. They start out usually doing more transactional income. So when I say it took me a year to get to my 100K in income, it wasn't until I quit the post office, because I knew I had my nest egg of equity set for me with all the properties. But then I went into more of a buying and selling mode, because once I quit my job, I had my daytimes available. I wasn't a slave to punching the time clock. So that's how, I got into fixing and flipping houses. And that's where we say that we fixed and flipped about 250 houses, and still do. But we don't do 250 at one time. We do 2 at a time now, and watch where the market's going.
Got it. So as far as top 3 tips or strategies to making that first 100K, I really like the first one, which is use your job, your job, your 9 to 5 as an asset. Yeah. Love that. What would be tip number 2?
Tip number 2 is surround yourself with like-minded people, and preferably people that can be capital partners for you in your business. Because if you ever need to borrow money or take on a partner, you want to make sure that that person has financial resources to help the business grow, should you need that. So I'd say the second biggest asset I discovered was to find people that had Roth IRAs, self-directed, that would prefer a real estate investment as opposed to, traditional stock market investments or whatever they were investing in, or CDs or.
So let me ask you this, like, how does that actually look like in real life, right? You meet someone wherever, at a networking group or out to lunch or whatever. Like, do you just start interviewing them like on their financial portfolio to discover if they could be a good capital partner down the road?
At first, the answer was yes, because I didn't know how to find them. But now that I know where to find them, a lot of the IRA IRA custodians that offer self-directed IRAs, they hold events, they hold cruises, they hold conventions, and all over the country. And if you start following those and just meet people at those events, that's where their account holders who have a lot of money that want to get it out on the street go to hang out. So they're looking for investments, and we're looking for capital. So it's a happy marriage of the two.
Got it. That's really interesting. I'm glad I asked that question. So what would be your tip number 3?
Tip number 3 would be beware of debt. Hey, we like to be honest here. And I started out in my young 20s, early 30s, and accumulating 3 dozen rental properties. But what happened 10 years ago with the mortgage meltdown? Boy, I'll tell you, I found myself with a lot of those properties all of a sudden upside down. And it didn't matter that I had bought them 20 years earlier in the 80s. It was like, I paid $50,000 for these houses. They grew up to be $300,000 houses, and then they were all the way back to 50 where we started. Like, what's up with that? So I realized, wow, if you can stay away from debt, or borrow debt smart, or borrow debt without recourse and personal liability, it's okay to sign corporately so everybody understands the risk, but just be careful of debt, because it's a double-edged sword. It could come back to bite you.
So was that your big number 1 mistake that you wish you could have done differently? Like, how would you say that mistake in 1 sentence?
I would say, if you have equity and you have a certain net worth goal, there is a time to sell something and get that equity liquid into cash and pay off debt. This way you start like a floor or foundation of for your business. Now, in my business, it almost directly pertains to houses. So I like to say the average person, 10 houses is not a lot of properties, really. Especially if you live in parts of Florida, other parts of the country where you can still buy a nice house for $50,000, $60,000. It exists here in Florida. We're buying them. But if you can get 10 properties free and clear, and you can rent them for, say, $900 or $1,000 a month, that can take you to a nice retirement. Okay, we're not talking about retiring on millions. You might have millions in equity, and that's okay. We've passed the million mark in equity. We're fine there. But it's the monthly cash flow, and 10 simple houses can give you a lifestyle unlike most Americans will ever get to experience.
I like that. Powerful stuff. Powerful. Okay, awesome. Why do you think, let's go broad for a second. Why do you think that 90% of entrepreneurs are struggling to make their first 100K right now?
90%, they just don't know the right thing to do within their niche. So if I had a chance to do it all over again, I would probably say I would not get a job working for Uncle Sam. I would say I would probably go to work for somebody that was already doing what I wanted to do and apprentice under that person and learn the business from them. Because you're going to see the ins and outs of the back office of how they run things. And sometimes what you see on the front side may not be everything that's really happening on the back side. Somebody may look successful, don't look at their car. A lot of the guys I know in real estate that really have a lot of wealth, it's more like the millionaire next door book approach. They're driving. Hey, I drive a 15-year-old F-150 pickup truck. It looks nice, and it was a $50,000 truck when I bought it, but I don't have to drive a Lamborghini. I just need to be practical. So go to work for somebody like that that's not flashing a lot of stuff. In the Boca, Tampa area, it's kind of hard not to find those people sometimes, but they're out there. Work for them.
Thanks for that, Thomas. So, Thomas, let's speak about following God's highest calling for your life. How has that shown up in your life personally? Give us that quick story from back then to right here, right now.
Sure. Well, I started buying all those properties. I created a nice lifestyle for ourselves, and I enjoy what I do. I enjoy doing fix and flips and wholesaling properties. And what that's helped me transition my way into is just speaking at a couple local real estate clubs here around the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, and just kind of telling my story. People started to invite me to speak a little further away. And before I knew it, I was getting all these speaking invitations for around the country. So that morphed into me writing some books that talked about what I do. And today I coach and mentor other people how to do the same.
Very cool. So where does God play into all this? How did you bring God into your business?
I would say I have a certain attraction to people that are more like me. I'm kind of like the not in your face guy, not driving the flashy car. I'm more laid back Southern guy from New Jersey. So I would say that people, not say that I'm a little more humble maybe, or try to keep more of a meek approach to things. But I think people that are more like me and are attracted more to that tend to gravitate their way toward me. And I feel that, we all relate to people who we are, I guess, similar to in personality. And I've been able to help a lot of people like that.
So would you say you're more like the incognito millionaire? You're kind of keeping it down low, hidden a little bit?
I would say so. I would say so. We give away a lot for free here. We started a meetup group about a year ago where I'm actually talking to you guys from my barn in the back of the house, which we've actually scraped all the dirt and horse manure out and turned into our office. So this used to be a 2-stall barn. And
hey, listen, this is my first podcast show, Startup Nation, in the barn. So,
in the barn, yes.
Yay me.
You guys, you've been invited to the barn. You are officially there. But
how to make your first 100K in your barn.
In your barn. And it's no animals were harmed in this process.
I love it. I love it. All right. So I really want to get into it because you're not actually giving me the answer that I'm looking for. So your faith is important to you. You follow your second strategy or tip, which is surround yourself with like-minded people. So I'm guessing there are also believers and Christian businessmen just like yourself, those incognito millionaires like yourself. How do you really bring your faith or bring your Sunday into your Monday through Friday? What does that actually look like?
Well, what it does is I don't slap a Christian label on things because I don't want to scare people away. Mm-hmm. And it's just my style of doing things. I think, let what you do and say and the decisions you make, like, be your testimony. But
Mm.
I have had several investor friends that literally got saved just by coming out to hang around me and do a few deals with me and say, what's that about? Or I'm struggling with something. What do you recommend? I had one friend, he came out to see a house that I was remodeling. He was interested in getting in the business. He was new. He was getting his first deal and came out, and we got into a conversation in the guy's house. It was a bank-owned property. It was empty, but we wound up ending that house tour with him crying on my shoulder, telling me about the divorce he was going through. And the guy was just like broken and ripe, for God at that point. And it's an opportunity to share your faith. And not only with people that I mentor, but when I'm buying a house from somebody, many times, if not all the time, I'm buying from somebody who either has a strong reason they're selling or a deadline or something bad is happening in their life. Like somebody died, somebody's got cancer, somebody's going through a real hardship and they're in foreclosure and they're really down in the dumps. And, as a Christian, you have to understand that, you don't want to kick people when they're down. And there's been many times that I've gone out and bought groceries for them folks and says, hey, I can't help you with your house. It just doesn't make any sense from a business point of view. And, this is kind of a business first, right? So you can't make a decision that's going to throw the monkey from their back to yours. You just have to say, I'll pass on this one, but can I buy you some groceries? Can we go to Publix? And I've done that, seeing a mom, her husband left and, she's there with several kids hungry and crying, you just feel you got to step in and help whatever way you can. I've been in that situation many times. So aside from even the coaching students that I have, I would say it's an opportunity to bless people when they're really down and out and are losing their home.
Startup Nation, what an awesome way and approach to bringing your faith into your business that Thomas has just shared with you. I mean, that really inspires me and encourages me. I hope it does for you as well. Sometimes it's the little things where you can really show your faith, right? I love the St. Francis quote, right? Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. Mm-hmm. And I really think, Thomas, that's how you're showing up in the world. And I just want to acknowledge you for that, because you're letting your actions speak volumes, right? The widows and the orphans, right? The single moms, the kids whose dad walked out on them. And there you are taking them to the grocery store and buying them food, right? Taking care of their basic needs. Mm-hmm. Which sometimes opens up an access right there for their spiritual needs. Other times it doesn't. It's literally you're just meant to help them in the physical ailments of their life, right? And I really think that's fantastic. That is so fantastic that you bring your faith into your business that way. What a cool, awesome calling. Anything else that's showing up for you that you want to share with Startup Nation in regards to this?
No, that pretty much covers it. It's no, that pretty much wraps it.
I agree. I agree. You articulated it really simply and very well. It was clear. I don't think we need to expand on it. Startup Nation, if you are in a business right now, look around your business. Realize that business is a gift and a blessing to you. Yes, you work. Yes, you hustle. You put in the hours. You put in the investment. I got it. However, all of that could be taken away from you as easily as it was given to you. Mm-hmm. Are you willing to help those that are a few steps down the ladder from you? Are you willing to reach out your hand and help them in their needs, whether they're physical needs or spiritual needs? How would you act with a prospective client or partner like Thomas did? Right? Where you're standing in a home, the person unloads their personal problems and starts crying on your shoulder. How would you respond? Would you get all awkward and closed off because this is inappropriate or unprofessional how they're behaving? Or would you lean in with your humanity and really meet them where they're at? Right? And maybe point them to God and say, listen, I don't have the answers to your problems, but I know who does. Sure. Let me tell you about him. Yeah. All right, cool. So let me do a quick recap, Thomas, for Startup Nation. So, Startup Nation, Thomas shared his top 3 tips and strategies that you can use right now in your life, in your business, to make your first $100,000. This is what worked for him, and it could work for you. Thomas said, tip number 1, strategy number 1, use your job as an asset. So wherever you're pulling your income from right now, use that as an asset to start building and creating the life that you want, or start building and creating that second and third and fourth revenue stream for yourself. And then tip number 2, Thomas says, surround yourself with like-minded capital partners. Not just like-minded people, but like-minded people who have some money and some assets, some affluence that can really help excel or accelerate the path that you're on. And, look for them with the people with the Roth IRAs. He said you could find them at some of these cruises and other types of business community networking events that they put on. And that's a great opportunity to find those people. And then finally, top tip number 3 by Thomas, beware of debt. Do not go in over your head. And as fast as you can, turn that debt into liquid capital. That is key. That is key. Thomas's number 1 mistake, he waited too long to pay off his debt. Are you waiting too long to pay off your debt? Let's go. Get out of it. And then Thomas says, why you're struggling. You're struggling because you really don't know enough about your niche. So go be an apprentice with someone or for someone who you admire and you want to learn from, and be where they are in their life. Go be an apprentice as fast as you can with that. So Thomas, thanks for that. That was awesome share, really positive. So this is my favorite part of the show, Thomas. Welcome to the hustle round. This is where I am going to ask you 10. I'm going to let you off the hook today. I'm going to ask you 10 quick fire questions. You'll have about 3 seconds to answer each. It's just for fun. Don't overthink it. Are you ready, sir?
Ready.
Boom, boom, boom. What's your favorite sound?
Southern music.
What's your least favorite sound?
Rap.
Got it. What are you most afraid of?
Fear of failure.
What did you spend way too much time doing your first year in business?
Overanalyzing.
What secret fear do you have about people?
That they won't like me.
What do you wish you had learned sooner in your business?
There's financial resources out there for you.
What's a new habit that you'd like to form?
Pass.
No, there is no pass on my show.
There is no pass. Okay.
Oh, no. What's a new habit you want to form?
Is being consistent with internet marketing.
Got it. What's a bad habit you want to break?
Is multitasking and trying to do too much at one time.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Pick 3 words to describe who you are now.
I am an empowered individual seeking. I'm sorry, repeat it.
Pick 3 words to describe who you are now.
Okay. Empowered, guided, and positive.
Got it. Pick 3 words to describe who you were your first year in business.
Doubtful, unsure, and lacking direction.
Isn't it awesome how quickly we find the 3 words of the past? Because we have retrospect now, we can look back and go, oh, I was an idiot back then, All right, cool. And last question, if you could come back to life after you died, Thomas, and tell your family and friends, look your kids in the eyes, and only share one piece of advice, what would you say to them?
Everything's going to be okay. Just follow that little small voice inside and embrace Christ.
Amen to that. So Startup Nation, we've been chatting with Thomas Nardone. I almost said Cardone because I was just watching Grant Cardone's. But Thomas Nardone, no relation to Grant Cardone. And you can find Thomas at millionairemailman.com. That's millionairemailman.com. Thomas, any final wisdom? What's the one thing you want my listener to really get, to really know about making their first $100,000 or their next $100,000?
Well, what I'd like you to know, and maybe I should have mentioned this earlier, is part of that small voice inside is if you're someone who's not already an entrepreneur and you're like a blue collar worker like I was, but you're looking at entrepreneurs and listening to Joseph's show to really find your path and where you should go, figure out what's your highest calling. There were days I'd sit on my lunch break under a shade tree as a mailman. And I'd go, this is not what I was meant to do. I was meant to do so much more. So don't snuff out and smother that little voice. Listen to that voice and find out what your unique ability is and what you like to do, and follow that and ask God for direction.
Love it. Powerful, powerful wisdom, Startup Nation. The only way you can hear that little voice that Thomas is describing is for you to get quiet, to be still, to sit, to be undistracted, shut off the phones, the devices, and all the noise and cares of the world. This is why I do what's called the Daily Holy Hour. I do a Facebook Live, and I share this often, right? I do it every morning, 7:30 a.m., 7 days a week, and we spend an hour in silence with your creator. If you need that virtual accountability, I offer that free spiritual coaching for you. Go on Facebook, look it up, and do exactly what Thomas is saying. Thomas, what's the best way for Startup Nation to get in touch with you?
Well, they could visit my website. It's millionairemailman.com. And if you'd like to grab a hold of a free ebook that I just wrote about how to get started doing what I do, and you're driving, well, don't text and drive, but you can do a simple text opt-in. If you text the word mailman to 31996, it's called a short text code. It's shorter than obviously a full phone number, but you text the word mailman to 31996. It'll send you a link to download my free ebook on how to get started in real estate investing and get to your first $10,000 deal.
That's awesome. Is this the ebook I see on your website, 5 Ways to Find Houses 30 to 50% Below Market?
That's one of them. This might be more of a newer version.
Got it. So Startup Nation, you got some cool ebooks over here. Go to millionairemailman.com. If you like Thomas, like I like him, this is a solid dude right here, right? Go and check out his content, right? Obviously, he's showing up in the world. He's making the world a better place just by his quiet actions, right? Bringing his faith into his business, and you can do the same. Be inspired by that. Thomas, thank you for joining me on this show, and I wish you God's peace, God's love, and God's happiness, and your next 100K.
Thanks, Joseph. And the next time you're in the Fort Lauderdale area, give me a shout. I'll give you a tour of the Everglades. Oh
my gosh. Listen, I want an 11-foot alligator if I'm going out with you, because I just need to trump your 10-foot alligator.
Get your license and we'll go out and get them.
All right, brother. Have a blessed day. Cheers.
Thanks. I just put this thing on before the show. I figured, let me put a collared shirt on, and I'm sweating.
Well, dude,
10 questions that got me on that one.
Or it's because you're recording in a barn.
Could be. No, I got the air conditioner blaring for that one.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, hopefully I made it not so painful for you, right? You really you showed up well. You showed up well.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge you for that. You know.
Well, thanks.
So really well done.
I'm serious about the airboat ride, though. If you're ever down in this area, it's a lot. I live in a little town called Parkland, which I don't get into this on podcasts, but it's still kind of new. Is that high school shooting with the 17 kids that got killed in February? It's right down the street from my house. So, but we're on the edge of the Everglades, and if you're ever in the area, I'll take you out for a tour. It's a lot of fun out there.
That's awesome. How close are you to Miami?
Miami is 30 miles. It takes about 40 minutes to get down there.
No, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. No.
The reason why I asked, I am planning to go to Grant Cardone's 10X conference coming up in February 1, 2, and 3. My birthday is February 2nd. So I'm thinking about doing that. So you never know. It could be a before the trip or after the trip.
Yeah.
Pit stop.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Stay in touch with me. You can text me. You have my cell phone number there. Just kind of let me know when you're going in town. I do have a cruise to Cuba sometime around then. I'm not sure when it is, not having my calendar open, but one of those masterminds where the people have a lot of money.
Nice.
IRA holders is what I'm going on.
So while you're in Cuba on your cruise, I'll be out on your boat.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, brother.
Okay.
Anything I could do for you?
No, I think we're all set. Just curious, how do you monetize your show? Do you offer coaching to startup entrepreneurs, or how does that work for you? Like, what does your model look like?
Right. So my main source of income is I own two co-working spaces here in Tampa. So office rental
Mhm.
companies, right? So I have two 5,000 square foot commercial properties, one in South Tampa, one in downtown Tampa.
Mhm.
However, I'm looking to get out of that business
Mhm.
and really pursue my higher calling, which
Mhm.
God has shared with me. And that is, well, in quotes, bring my sons back to me. And what that actually looks like is working with believers, regardless of their denomination, and teaching them how to get quiet with God an hour a day
Mhm.
so that he can give them their purpose and his plan for their life like he has done for me. So I'm very clear on my purpose and my calling, and God's been opening all those doors in that direction. This is the long answer to your question.
Mhm.
However, what I've discovered is I'm going to be doing spiritual coaching. So I'm starting a
Mhm.
spiritual coaching practice right now. And we're coming up with 3 different products. I'm working with one of the top agencies in New York who built the Grant Cardone brand.
Mhm.
Mel Robbins is their client,
Mhm.
as well as some other big players. And they wanted me. And
Mhm.
so we're writing a best-selling book, and I'm building platform right now.
Awesome.
And I will be a spiritual coach to help people draw closer with God, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I sense that about you when I first met you. I was like, wow, here's a guy. He's fit. He's trim. He's powerful. I mean,
Mm,
your presence is powerful presence,
mm.
and to hear you like be outwardly admitted to be a Christian guy, you know, people who don't understand it maybe have weird, you know, conceptions of who we are. But no, I really respect you for who you are, and that role for you seems like it's you.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
I appreciate that
Yeah.
objectivity. You know, looking from the outside in, we don't always see ourselves the way others do.
Yeah.
Quick funny story at the conference. I don't know if you were there at that moment, but when we broke into the table groups,
Mhm.
and it was an icon at each table, whatever. My table, I made freaking 4 people cry at the table.
Wow.
And it was because I spoke about God and wanting to come in and heal their brokenness, right?
Yeah.
And like grown men were freaking crying, dude, and
Yeah.
women were crying. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is my calling.
Yeah.
God has gifted me with this. I
Yeah.
know how to just come right in with a laser beam and
Yeah.
just pull out the shit that you're avoiding and bring it
Yeah.
to the top, the area
Yeah.
that God wants to heal you in, but you keep throwing him the scraps.
Yeah.
And it was the most fulfilling
Yeah.
experience of that whole
Sure.
conference, was just sitting at the table doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Steve's audience, in a sense, is kind of a mixed bag of nuts, literally and maybe metaphorically. You know, some are into some really woo-woo type of beliefs. And yeah, that's that you were in fertile ground there,
Dude,
man.
it was really
Yeah.
interesting to me because I was like, God, like, why you put me in this room of like all these they were like former Catholics, former Christians, and now they're all like worshiping nature and
Yeah.
woo-woo voodoo shit,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and what God really presents me to is, Joseph, they're not as far away as you think from me.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just they're searching for me just in
Yeah.
all the wrong places. They're
Yeah.
they're searching and ending their search with creation rather
Yeah.
than pushing one level through. Well, who created all that creation that you're worshiping with all your chakras and energy, and
Yeah.
everything they're saying is true.
Yeah.
This is the order of the universe, law of attraction, the energy within, your inner
Right.
divinity and
Right.
everything. Yes, we're made in God's image and likeness, but to
Right.
not give him credit
Right.
and to give credit to that's like not giving Steve Jobs or Apple the credit for my
Yeah.
smartphone, but saying,
Yeah.
oh, my smartphone created itself. It's an
Yeah.
amazing smartphone. Let me worship it. Like
Right.
it's just an ignorant way of thinking, but they're in the right place. And I think you said it flawlessly, in my opinion. You said that gentleman in your life, he was broken and ripe and ready for me to share my faith with him.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think those people are broken and ripe and ready for us to share our faith with them. They're
Sure.
searching, dude. So I want the
Sure.
spiritually courageous entrepreneur who's seeking something more.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's my sweet spot. And I will
Right.
tap that geyser and point him to God.
Right. Right. Yeah, you nailed it right there. That's the mission right there.
Yeah, man.
To
Amen
do
to
that.
that. Well,
Yeah.
I got to run. Thank you so much, Thomas. This show, your show, will
Yeah.
go live this Thursday,
Oh, okay. Great.
early
Great.
morning AM. I do a quick turnaround on my shows. Okay.
Awesome. All
So
right.
we'll get the links out to you probably sometime tomorrow. And
Okay.
then, as you committed to in your 7 steps to be a
Yeah.
guest on the show,
Yeah.
go ahead and share with all your networks. And I think it's going to add a lot of value to you because you showed up with your faith
Yeah.
and articulate it in a way that really is going to connect with people. So your partners, your clients, your prospective clients,
Yeah.
I believe, can build a deeper connection with you,
Yeah.
and it will
Yeah.
probably open up some new possibilities in your business life as well.
Yeah. Hey, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, brother.
Awesome.
God bless you, man.
Thanks. You too, Joseph. Take
See
care.
you. Bye.